All the trim is on, and we are ready to put some steel on this thing. We're going to check the plumb from the peak up there, the ridge, pull a string across the post, make sure we got it plumbed up. And if we have to do any pulling from end to end, we'll do that and get it plumb, and then we will get up top and check some cross measurements for square and get it pulled around where one half of the roof is perfectly square. We've got to get a string line. There's 3 inches of overhang on this metal. It's supposed to hang over 3 inches off the side. We've got to get that just right, and then we'll start punching some metal, get this steel put on. It should go on pretty fast. It'll take a little bit to get it all screwed off once we get it on, but it should go on pretty fast. We've got enough help to make it run pretty smoothly, I hope. This took just a little bit more time and thinking than it should have, but we have got this building, this roof system squared up. We ended up having to have a tractor here and a truck in the middle pulling that way off of ratchet straps and a chain binder, and then in the center we pulled to the dump truck to straighten out this rafter that was crooked. And we've got our line pulled 3 inches, and we're fixing to put some steel on here. It took us a little bit to get going, but we got this sucker squared up and trued up. We're straight, and we are punching our metal ahead of time. You can see the holes up through there. That's what these boys over here are doing. We just leave the metal in a nice straight stack and punch all the way through. Well, you can punch through 3 or 4 sheets at a time, and it'll leave your mark on the sheet on the bottom, and you can go through and punch it and punch some more. And that way it does 2 things. It's easier to start screws, and we don't have to chalk lines. We know where everything's at. Alright, I'm going to show y'all the correct way to put roof steel on and get it straight. Now, I've showed this before when I was working on my house, but in case you hadn't seen that, if you're new to the channel, this is how we do it. So, we got the roof square to start with. We got our line. We're 3 inches down, because that's what the building plans called for us, how the metal's sent. I normally wouldn't go quite that much, but on a barn it don't matter. So we got our 3 inches down there. We got our 3 inches down there, line pulled like a banjo string. Alright. So I'm gonna line up this last sheet right here. Get it just right. Next sheet was the last sheet. Alright, so I got that lined up just right. We're still on our string line there. And actually, we don't need any adjustment. That's perfect. Yeah, it's perfect. That rarely happens. Normally, we count on these sheets being sent to us perfectly square, and typically they are. And you can see how straight that is down through there. I hope you can. Typically, what we'll do is we'll twist the top of the sheet around until we line up just right with this line. Then I screw mine in. Then he pulls his up to where it lines up and screws it down. Believe it or not, there's enough give in these sheets that you can line the bottom up perfectly, twist the top around, screw it down. And as long as unless you're doing something wrong, you'll be able to run the whole length of the building and get your overhang perfect. No jagged edge, perfectly straight. We only had 2 or 3 sheets on before we left for lunch. Been back from lunch for an hour, and you see what we've got done. We're over halfway. So I told you when we got rolling, we was gonna be rolling. If we were screwing into 1x6s or 1x4s, laying down flat, or 2x4s laying down flat like we normally do, there wouldn't be no problem, because if you can't hit something 3.5 inches, 4 inches wide, you need to find a different profession. But with these purlins standing up where you ain't got but 1.5 inches to screw to, we're having to check as we go along and make sure that our purlins are lining up with our punched holes like they're supposed to. You see we got all these holes. This is what it looks like where we punch the holes ahead of time, and we just kind of got to go down through here and double check. And every once in a while, when we get time between them bringing us sheets, Aloy here is running a screw in this second hole to make sure that we got our purlins where they need to be, so we ain't missing the wood with our screws. Alright, day 2 of putting steel on. Well, not really day 2, because it's 11 o'clock and we just finished up and we didn't start till 8. But you can see there's a whole lot left to screw off. This side's got 3/4 of the screws running on it. Look at those screw lines where we punched them. If that ain't snazzy, I don't know what is. Lined up perfectly. And there's a couple things I've learned in this build that I would have done differently. I would have definitely put some blocks under not under, but blocks center between the post about the first 3 runs of purlins to true them up and make the edge straighter, because it's nearly impossible to straighten up that fascia board as straight as I would like it to be. But you don't notice the fascia as much unless you're standing right here. So you can see it's got a little bit of a wave in it down towards the other end, but nothing we can do about it. Check out the perfectly straight metal down through there though. Now that is snazzy. It turned out pretty dang good. I try to always be learning and growing and never try to think that I know it all. But I learned a little bit about keeping your ribs true from one end to the other while squaring and keeping the edge straight. And we actually did a really good job of that. You can see right here that our ends wound up perfectly the same, and this is not the end we started on. This is the end we finished on both sides. So really happy with that. But it's all on. This other side was not as easy as the first side. If everything just fell together, then it'd be much easier and much faster if everything just flew together like it was supposed to. But here in the real world, like Alan Jackson said, nothing ever goes quite exactly like it's supposed to. But she's dried in. We've got a ridge cap to put on. Probably gonna do another video and show you how to trim and fold the ridge cap to make it look nice on the ends. It's just a tractor shed. It don't matter. You could just slap the ridge, overhang it an inch, and roll on. But that's not really my style. I like for everything to be finished, and it only takes a couple of extra minutes to do some snipping and folding and make it look really nice. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Maybe you learned a little something about how to straighten the steel. I hope. That's always my goal with the reason I make these videos, to help people not have to struggle as much as I have to learn some of the things that I've learned. I don't know much, but what I do know, I pretty much had to learn the hard way. If you're not already aware, check out my TikToks. A lot of times anymore they're the same as my YouTube shorts, but there is some older content, and sometimes it's not always the same. But there's some older content on there, and those are short little, I try to make them kind of helpful tips, what I can fit into 1 minute. So check out my TikTok, go over there and follow me. I'd appreciate it. If you got any comments, drop them in the comments. I do read every single one of them, and try to respond to all the questions at this point anyway. And if you like what you see, subscribe. We've got a whole bunch of videos on this channel, a bunch of different content, mainly around farming, specifically produce farming. But I appreciate you guys watching. I will see you on the next one.